Hello, I'm Joe. Welcome to the live stream. Come closer, come on. I've got to keep it well locked up, you see, as this is very precious. Someone told me the contents are worth more than the house. Come on in, come on. Come on.
These tables are 5, tables are 3, tables are
I've been lucky to get all these things. I've been so very lucky. I can't believe I got these. Both of them have still got chocolate in. This is Queen Victoria. 1899 this was packed. 1900, Queen Victoria's gift to the Boer War troops. I have another one in there. And the difference between that one and this one is that this one is in mint condition. That had cost 90 quid. This one had cost 500 quid. This one still has chocolate in the foil. Now, this here is very special. This is a First World War soldier's emergency kit. They was only allowed to open it if they were given an order. It was the last of everything. It was full of vitamins. And it'd keep them going if they had no food left or anything. If they were stuck in the middle of nowhere. But this one is open. I want you to smell this chocolate. Now, I'll tell you why. The chocolate in this tin is still in perfect condition after all these years. If I can get rid of. Now, can you smell that? Yes? Can you smell that? I can't smell it because I've lost the sense of smell. But you can smell it, can't you? Oh, this is wonderful. Now then, these here are very important. The Cocoa Works magazine. We lost this lovely magazine when we took over Macintosh. It was full of articles, notices of marriages, sports, everything. It was to keep everyone in touch with everyone else. I even got in the magazine a couple of times. But then they got rid of this. Instead they put this horrible newspaper together. You were lucky if York even got a mention. Only hatched, matched and dispatched. All that went. There are a lot of memories here. We can't lose them, all these things. They're people's memories, you see. I was lucky when I worked at Roundtrees. I used to go right round the factory. Must have met thousands of people myself. I met everyone.
Now then, Joe.
Morning, Joe.
Some were more friendly than others. Some would just nod like that. Some wouldn't even nod if they were up high and I was way down there. But most of them were really pally, really nice. They'd always say hello and have a chat. They were the happiest years of my working life were the 60s when I started. The beginning at 1960s. When I started, I got a really good education about Roundtrees just by speaking to people about it. Chaps who was just on their way out who'd been there since before the First World War. I was 15 when I started. That was in 1960. Early in 1960. You know, I only went for 2 weeks and I spent a lifetime there. I wanted to be a forester, but well, to be honest, you just forgot to
leave. To go.
And by this time you'd made quite a lot of friends.
Oh, we don't have laugh.
After a few years, you just became part of furniture. I did jobs like, well, filling materials for people who were using them, moving things about. I went to any part of the factory. After about 5 or 6 years, I got a job that was to last me for the rest of my life. I was handling waste ingredients and products. It was known as the reclamation department. I went everywhere. Went places that some people weren't allowed. Experimental department. Design department. Advertising department. I went to every department. But going back to when I first started, and this is the big difference. When I went into that company, it was quite a shock going into a big place like that and seeing everything that they did. But there was one thing I noticed that I will never lose as long as I live. It was 12,500 people there then, and it was like one big family. And yes, in families people fall out with each other, and that did happen, but in general people helped each other, and they had time for each other. When Joseph Rowntree died in 1925, the whole company, from the sweeper to the top, were all stood in mourning. The whole lot. What I mean is that they respected their boss. Absolutely. And he was a caring father as well. He was treating them with the Quaker principles. Joseph Rowntree cared about the workers. They cared about the social side of it, and they cared about every side of it. They even built a school at the factory. It was called, what was it called?
Adult schools.
Adult schools. But Joseph Rowntree didn't do it because they wanted to get paid. No, they did it because they wanted to educate the people.
We always got told off. I mean, when you think we were only 15, weren't we? 15, that's all we were. And I left when I was 18 and a half, and then I got married. We loved it, yeah. Well, that's how I've known Christine for all them years, from working in Roundtrees. Yeah, that's right, you were great. Yeah, great fun. As I say, I spent more time. There was a spiral staircase to manager's office. I spent more time up there, in trouble. I weren't a bad kid, I couldn't stop laughing. When you were only 15, you went to, once a week, oh, I forget that as well, on a Friday, I think it was. You went to, it was a school. Well, when you think, we were only kids, weren't we? 15. But I can't remember what we did there, to be honest. I can remember going up the road to where the dining area used to be. There's like a big building next to the little theatre. It's all blocked up now. But that's where you used to go to get your dinners and everything. Yeah, and then you went to this school. Christine might be able to help you. See, I can't remember what we did there.
If you go back to earlier days there, my mother worked at Roundtrees in the 1920s. That's when I left school at 14. And Roundtrees then used to educate them. They used to do a morning with English or mathematics. Although she worked on the factory floor, morning of PE. So they made sure everyone had physical exercise and everyone had a basic education. So my mother was a beautiful writer. And she could write far better than I ever could.
I used to go to school, you know, through the factory. It was one day a week and you used to go to school. You used to be able to do various things, like cooking and stuff. I like boys' things. I was into woodwork.
Was it a school that... What did we do at school? Was it learning or... Oh, well, that sounds a bit daft.
No, it was woodwork and cookery. I think I made 2 coffee tables and some stools.
Well, I made an oh, what you call it, I've forgotten the name, not an ironing board, a dryer. And it was so out of shape, my teacher took it to bits and did it for me. I'm no good at DIY.
I love wood. I made table mats and a coffee table, and you could buy them. Then I got married and had a baby, and that's when I left.
Oh, I used to love the day school, it was great.
That were on a Friday that way, once a week. We all used to go and link arms, 20 of us walking up the road. Wouldn't be able to do that now, would you?
So you see, they set up the school because people had a bad education. And you know, there were bad living conditions. Education was very important to them. When we were doing the dig just now on Sunday, and all them houses had no fresh air coming in at all. They had bronchitis, and they had no damp course. So it was just coming up so damp. So they died very young. It was terrible. They were living in poverty. They called it the Titanic of York when they were digging recently. Well, that's why they built the village. New Earswick. Joseph even built a village for the workers. But Rowntree built proper houses.
New Earswick was originally for all Rowntree employees who couldn't afford houses. They're all lovely houses with over many bedrooms and a garden, and most houses have a fruit tree and everything else. And it's still there now. But you won't find many Rowntree employees there now. I don't know how many people you've spoken to or you're going to speak to, but I think you'll find, generally, that at whatever level, they'll say they were well looked after.
We had everything a community needs. Oh yeah, we had a library, but all this got closed down by Nestle. We had a library, a post office.
A bank.
Doctors.
Fire brigade. We had our own fire brigades.
We had all the facilities you needed. We had evening classes, a gymnasium, swimming baths. Well, that's now Yearsley. I've got a picture of Joseph Rowntree laying a foundation stone there. We had a theatre.
Oh, as Janet mentioned, the films we used to watch. Oh, it were every day, and it were at lunchtime in the winter, and they made the films last all week. So you just got bits of it, just so much. That were great as well. I remember Room at the Top. Janet might remember some of the others, but Room at the Top were a great one. And you went to the theatre that's there now for that. I thought it were on a Friday, but she might say different. But it were one day each week. No, let me get this right. It's because I'm excited. We've just booked an holiday. Well, I'm excited. We're going to Tenerife. All right, let me get this right. Every day you got a bit of the film, and the film lasted all week. Will that be 1967-ish, round then? Do you remember the films they used to show at the theatre?
Yeah, I do.
Well, was that every day?
No, I don't think
No,
so.
I thought, well, I think you got a bit of the film every day.
I can't honestly remember. I can remember them happening, but I can't remember how often they did.
Well, what film do you remember?
No. But I can remember the films, but I can't remember any what they were.
We didn't get long for lunch, did we? Were it an hour or half an hour?
No, we got an hour, I think. We got an hour. But then that was involved was you had to have your meal and your film in that hour.
Your film, yeah.
Oh, I liked it, Ranches, because we used to just have a good laugh, didn't we? All we did was laugh and sing. We used to sing at the top of our voices when we were packing chocolates.
From the radio, yeah, they used to request songs they'd like. They don't do that anymore, do they? I think it's silly they don't do that anymore, because music helps you work. Somebody used to go down with a piece of paper with the songs they'd like written on it. I requested one or two in my time. The Walker Brothers, the Beatles, Roy Orbison.
Do you remember Barbara? Oh, she used to go bright red, because we used to play that song for her, I Like It. It used to really embarrass her, right? Because we used to think I Like It sounded a bit rude. Well, it sounded like something else.
Oh, I remember somebody put on them skinny banana long legs or something and then looked at me like, well, I was a lot thinner then, wasn't I? Hell of a lot thinner.
Well, that were Rowntree's own station, and it were opposite our packing room. God, they had everything when you think about it, didn't they? And it were opposite Black Magic doors. And, right, it were a little room, and they had turntable. They had records, well, they had everything in that room.
They used to have about an hour of quietness, but an hour of music for about 4 times a day they used to have. It was great.
Oh, Bobby Greaves was a real character. he'd be standing singing on the conveyor belt. If I had him here now, he'd be singing here and going down. Can you imagine him standing on the conveyor belt, moving while he's singing?
I just be skipping like a log. But when I get onto you, I find the things that you do. I make me feel alright.
Oh, it was a kind of place where he used to sing old songs. And I remember Elvis singing. It was the first time we'd heard this record. It was Teddy Bear. Well, the lasses were screaming and fainting, and it was only the ruddy record. They had to ban it. It was too dangerous. It was bizarre. I went into the canteen and I'd rushed me dinner. I lived at Acombe, so I couldn't go home and get back. So I'd have me dinner, rush it, so that we could go into the gym and have a dance session where they were jiving. Oh, it was brilliant. And when you went out, you always knew the Roundtrees people because they always jive differently from everybody else.
And the chaps would request songs for the women, and everyone would point at you if a chap requested a song for you.
Oh no, not for me. There was nothing like that for me. Oh, what am I talking about? I met my husband there. It was a long time ago.
Oh, well, my husband used to work in post, in mail, because he was right little, wasn't he? More of a messenger boy, really. What did your Ken do?
Oh, I can't think what sweet it was. It was on chocolate bars. There were quite a few that their husbands there.
Did
I met my missus at Terry's.
Where did you meet them there?
Yeah, just got chatting online one day and that were it.
What, and then you just asked her out?
Yeah. Well, she asked me out.
Oh.
I met my wife at Roundtrees. She was similar to myself, but she started 3 or 4 weeks before me, so she was quite an older time I got there. But I'll never forget meeting her. We walked along this corridor, she turned away, and I didn't know what to say. Well, she was very, very shy. And I've been to boys' grammar school, so I don't really know the girls anyway. So I eventually got eye contact after about 9 months. The following Christmas, we went to pantomime together, and that's when we started going out. We married, when we were 22. We've been happily married ever since, and that's 52 years now. 3 children, 8 grandchildren, so it's been terrific. My life's been fantastic.
There was quite a few couples, weren't there, at Terry's, I'd have said?
Yes, yeah.
There was Chris and about Gaynor and Darren.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a few married through Terry's.
Yeah. Lind left her husband, Rita.
She was always going.
She was, yeah.
It weren't couples, but you always seemed to be at a wedding, you know, or somebody's party, because it was always someone's birthday. You knew that many people. It seemed to always be at a wedding. Now you go to, I don't think I've been to a wedding in 4 or 5 years. It's just a social thing, weren't it?
Me and Ken used to go on our bikes to work. And he'd be cycling along Axby Road, and he'd be pushing me along, and I'd be sat, I'll just show you, he'd be sat. I'd be sat there, and I'd have my feet back like that, and he'd push me all the way along on my bike. Well, that's what they did years ago, isn't it? That was romance, I suppose. The lad pushed you on your bike, and you, that was romance.
Cycling. Thousands. Gilly Day there was solid with bicycles coming here. I used to like cycling. And there was huge, massive cycle sheds. And even I was a senior manager at the time I was 39, so I had a company car. But I only lived 2.5 miles away, so I used to cycle. Well, this led to certain people, talking behind my back, because I used to carry on cycling instead of using this lovely company car. Well, I thought it was silly. I wanted the exercise. And it led to 1 or 2 snide comments. I remember one evening when there'd been a board meeting, I'm coming out of cycle sheds, and one of the directors goes, "Oh, Norman, I see you got a new saddleback." I thought, that's brilliant.
If you went up Axby Road or Wigginton Road, all you'd see was a sea of white. Your white overalls, your white turbans. We had a friend that lived on Burtonstone Lane, and the dad used to say, we'll have to set off before them Roundtrees lot get out. We were in the car, and the last thing he wanted was to get stuck behind Batlock. 4 or 5 abreast they used to ride, clogging the road up, waves of white, punctuated by the traffic lights.
The sheds were full, and they weren't just full in the morning while evening. With them having 3 shifts then, they were full all the time. If you went in late, not that I wanted to, I was never late, but if you went in late on your bike, you couldn't find anywhere to park it.
We'd cycle down Haxby Road and clock in on machine. I think it was if you were a minute late, you got a quarter of an hour knocked off you, wouldn't you?
Everyone had to clock in, which meant putting your time card into the time machine to record your start and finishing time. As a woman, it was difficult to juggle home life and keep time.
We called it blicking in. I'm blicking at 20 to 7, ready to start at 7. In the old days, to make a living wage, you had to work from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. I won 38 merits for not having time off. But to get that, you had to remember to blick in every day.
At the end of the day, we all used to hang about in front of the clocking off machine. Clock made a clicking noise when it was time to go. One day, I don't know how we did it, but one day this clock banged something, metal it must have been, against the counter, and it sounded just like the clock going off. Someone had clicked her car 2 minutes early, and she was going mad because we were very strict about timekeeping. Anyway, we all laughed.
So I'd get to the reclamation department about 7, ready to start, you know, and different departments would ring up and ask for my services. So each day I'd go right round the factory collecting recycling and waste. Me and my mate, Loader, they called him, Robin Loader. I worked with him for years, about 40 years. You must get on well with someone to work with them for that long. Probably 38 years, nearly 40. Hey, I tell you what, he was a right gossip. He was like a journalist. If ever I wanted to tell everyone something, I used to tell him. I once told him, hey, I'm going off sick, you know, and I'm never coming back. And within hours, the whole factory knew. He was good. Good in that way.
There were men and women in my department. I was in the black magic department, the assortment department. The men used to help by bringing big pallets of sweets and helping us do things on the end. The production line was all women back then. There were at least 20 of us, and every separate chocolate that was in black magic. The chocolates were all wrapped individually in the little paper cups, and you were supposed to pick up one, well, pick up one each. But after a while, he got right clever and he picked up about 10.
Our cream factory was where all our cream assortments were hand-packed. So there's 1,000 girls in there, very skillful girls, packing a lot of them in a certain pack into a box.
There was always somebody on the end brushing them to make sure they were clean and tidy and everything. And if you did get a mark on them, the one on the end used to shout down and say,
"Your finger marking!"
So then you had to be very careful about how you put them in. All the ones that were marked went to a thing called a waste shop. That's all the sweets that weren't completely perfect. You got them cheaper if you went to waste shop.
In the summer, if it were really hot, you got sent home early. Oh, that were wonderful. I mean, they'd try and cool your hands first with this red liquid, but then you got sent home because you were finger marking. Well, it would be, I don't know, alcohol or something to try and cool your hands down. I can't really remember, but you still got paid, you see.
Oh, I hated it in assortments because I wasn't quick enough. And I had hot hands. Used to mark the chocolates, I did. So they moved me into Smarties. I like putting the tops on the tubes. It was all done by hand. They had a little letter printed on the lid, and we used to make words out of it if we had time. I went back to the black magic room a few years later after I'd had my baby. You know, there were 17 conveyors on different floors, all doing either black magic or dairy milks, because originally they used to cook the sweets, what you call cook the sweets, and they had a little, you know, like paces. And I couldn't do it. I had several goes, but I couldn't do it. It was in little things you had to pick it up. Pick your sweet up in the case and put it in the box. You actually unpacked your own box. And I got told off. Every bloody day did I get told because I've got hot hands.
Your finger marking!
Everybody worked there. I mean, when we were young, if you weren't in the A class, you didn't have a chance of going to college. I mean, now everybody can go to college. But back then, if you weren't in the A class, you didn't have a chance, did you? You went to factories and where the money was. They were going to take me on at Beacon Thorpe on Colby Street, but I went to Roundtrees because the money was better then, wasn't it? £5.6, that was my first wage.
The other thing that made me laugh was the bigger your turban was. The greatest ones were the biggest, and they'd wear big rollers under turbans to make them, and they'd have them dead perfect, wouldn't they?
Look at your twit in your turban. Because when you first started and they first put it on you, it was right down there. Imagine me with my little face. You've got this thing down here, as I say, but then you start to push it back, and you get your hair out, your hairnet on, and your hair pushed back in this silly turban, but then everybody looked as silly, and then you just keep pushing it further back.
You could always tell new starters with the turbans.
Oh, I looked a bugger in mine with my small face, and I couldn't do it with me right thin hair. They all got made up a lot of them, didn't they? Didn't like jewellery.
No.
But we got told off all the time for laughing.
I worked there 22 years. Started in 83. I worked in different departments, ended up in chocolate oranges. They used to put a bus on, they used to do like a works bus, used to go around and pick people up. When I started, I think there were about 1,200. And there was sugar beets and railways, and maybe York were built on factories, glassworks, railways.
Sugar
You know, Roundtrees and Terry's, and there was what was it as well, weren't there? Cravens. It's about 1,200 when I started, and that went down to about 300, didn't it? It was never as big as Roundtrees. There was always rivalry between Terry's and Roundtrees, but they're a bigger company. We couldn't match what Roundtrees did. Because we used to do a wafer though, didn't we?
Yeah, but ours was better.
And ours was better, but they didn't advertise it.
I mean, we couldn't have competed with Kit.
If it went off, no.
I mean, we couldn't have produced, you know, what it would have been if it took off.
So they just...
But it was nice. It was a nicer way for the Kit Kat. Terry's
Terry's wafer. Yeah, it's milk and dark, weren't it? And we did an orange as well, didn't we? I think we did ours before Kit Kat.
Because we had chocolate orange.
Yeah, but we did an orange wafer. I think we did ours before Kit Kat. It was definitely better.
See, we didn't see Terry's as a competitor as such, because it was so small.
Oh.
And we had a far, far bigger range of products and everything, and our turnover was many times more. There was a mutual respect, but we didn't see it as real competitors.
It was definitely a better wafer than Kit Kat. Mind you, they didn't have chocolate orange, did they?
No, they didn't. And we did a raspberry as well, didn't we? You know, that became like second chocolate orange line. Yeah, because we did a raspberry for a few years for Americans. That took off.
Yeah, but
didn't it?
It was Twin Towers. Twin Towers.
That was what year was that coming? It was
2001, isn't it? Because it's 11, isn't it? 2001, and then it just declined after that.
I think if that had still been going, I don't think it would have closed. If Americans were still wanting it.
Yeah, I mean, it took off. That saved us for quite a while. It was like a chocolate orange, but it was a raspberry
flavour.
And it wasn't a ball. It was a cone. It was more like a cone.
No, it was still a ball.
Was it a ball? Yeah, it was a ball.
Yeah, but it had different markings on it.
Yeah, it did. They always sold that in England, did they?
No, I don't think they did.
No. That's disgusting.
They've done quite a few though, haven't they? They did like a white chocolate one.
Yeah.
Ones with like honeycomb.
Honeycomb, yeah.
Did a Christmas pudding one, a Christmas pudding flavour. I mean, I didn't eat them though. really. I mean, there were some people who
I just didn't like chocolate orange.
Because we used to have to taste it every half an hour.
Yeah.
Just to make sure there was orange flavour in it.
That's another thing. When we were first there, they used to have quality control. They used to come round every half hour and weigh it and taste it and to make sure flavour was there and stuff like that. Got to them, didn't they?
Well, it got put onto us, didn't it? We had to taste it every half an hour.
Did that chocolate have a cherry?
Don't go there.
I was going to, because if they do a cherry chocolate in here now, they'll be doing something that Roundtree, or rather Nestle, had to stop doing. But well, they had to stop doing it because it was very labour intensive. They brought the cherries in from Italy, but we used to grow them in York. We used to grow them in York on the offside of Micklegate, off of Cherry. Oh, your memory goes after a while.
Cherry Lane, was it?
Yes. And it was covered in cherry trees. And we used to export them to Italy. But then we stopped and we started to import from Italy. And they come in from Italy and they were all white. They come in all white in some sort of liquid in these big barrels. So we had to put them in alcohol to make them red. This red alcohol. We had to soak them in these barrels for weeks and weeks until they went this lovely red colour. And there were all these women with very, very sharp knives cutting these cherries into four.
Yeah, I was in cherry dipping. I liked it. I was in cherry dipping and I did it at the time in Smarties. Not much.
They were one of the sweets. It were like a glazed cherry cut in half, and you had like pink fondant in a like a little boiler in front of you. Do you remember cherry dipping?
I do, yeah.
And your fondant had to be exactly right, because at the right temperature. Otherwise, it would just run off cherry, and it were like in this metal container, like a long thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you put your cherry in, and you went like that with fondant, and then you got it out, and then you put it on your greaseproof paper, and you went like that to give it twirl up a sea. Did you?
Oh, I couldn't do it. Absolutely hopeless. I must have been like a hyena because all I ever did was laugh.
I used to come out of cherry dipping and I was pickled because we were drinking the liquid, the pure alcohol. We used to go into a certain room on a night time when it were night and drink it. Hey, I shouldn't be saying this. If public hear what we're saying, we get done. Used to love them cherries.
Brought me eczema out, so I got moved from there.
So when they took the cherry out of Black Man, what they worried was Nestle did that. They said it was too expensive, too labour intensive. I've got one in my collection. They tried to get a machine in to do it. And then they asked this old boy to come in and do. But he just said, no, I won't. I've been there all my life. I'm not coming back to do my old job. Now, I don't want to be biased about people from university. But this is what happens. You get a new generation of people coming in from university. And they don't have a lot of idea about the way factories run. They don't understand the history of the place. And this is when it goes into decline. We had this man coming, a white old pen pusher, white collar worker. Now in a factory you've got to do certain things at certain times. So like the chocolate tanks, huge things, fed by a pipe working system. Well, you've got to know when to start it, to order it, and when to stop it, when to stop the order, or it'll continue filling up. We forgot. We were knee deep in chocolate. And it was my job to dig it all out. It was so hot in that tank room I had to work 20 minutes in, 20 minutes off, knee deep in chocolate. Well, they didn't teach you that at university. They came in and they knew nothing whatsoever about chocolate.
I used to work in product development. I played football with a lot of the men at the time, so this helped me. Because I was a senior member of staff, and if you were white collar in those days, you went in the factory, you were blank. I don't know, but because I played football locally, I was quite well known, so I could go in and have a joke with them and that, and I liked that. Now, it was unusual in those days, but I was one of only 2 senior managers without university experience.
When it came up to Christmas, some chaps would get these big black bin liners. We had big ones at Roundtrees. And they'd go around the departments in the factory, you know, and fill it full of nice sweets. Not seconds, but nice sweets, you know, still in their wrappers. So there'd be like Aeros and Polos and chocolates and everything that they made at that site, you know. And they'd put it in this bag and kind of triple bag it so it was sealed inside. And then they'd leave it outside by the bins. And it wasn't rubbish. It was for the bin men's kids to take home. Now, I don't know if the management knew that went on.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Well, I suppose they did. But it was basically like this massive bag of free sweets. So nice things like that went on.
When I first started, things were more relaxed and things like that. And everything changed throughout my years at Terrace. Everything got more efficient. I think everything got more efficient. Your line had to run as so many boxes per minute. And it just got tighter and tighter. And if it stopped, you got in trouble for it stopping. So you can understand why your morale's going down, because your team leader's getting more and more put on her. And then they're getting snappy. And then your staff, they're getting their deadlines and how many they've got to produce. And if it breaks down, then you're getting less out. So then your managers are coming down on them, and then they're getting hard on the staff. And it did get wet, didn't it? Production, didn't it?
It all changed. With this Nestle company, they just wanted to bin it all. Well, all the stuff we've been recycling, they just said stick it all in a skip. Me and my mate Robin, I said to him, people won't believe what we're throwing out. So I took a picture of him, and he took a picture of me, throwing all this stuff out. It was frightening when it started changing. I had quite a few rows with the management. They didn't like the idea that I would think, they just wanted me to do my job. So I said to them, Geography for Entry Policy, page 23. Listen to the workers, this is a democracy. And he just looked at me like that and said, well, where have you come from? So I said, I know a little bit about the history, you see. And he didn't know what to say.
When the staff were told about the Nestle takeover, they were very upset. We welcomed it, frankly, at senior management, bearing in mind what might have happened. I mean, we would have loved to have stayed independent, obviously, but really, we went from strength to strength. You see, we made an awful loss at Rowntrees many years ago when people bought cocoa beans with a view to make profit. But in fact, the price went down and we lost I don't know how many millions of pounds overnight. But this led to urgent savings in many departments and resulted in a very, very slick operation in most parts.
Well, I've come to the conclusion that the aggressive takeover of Rowntree by Nestle was a big con. We were told by the Nestle chief that they'd make York the centre of the world for chocolate. Untrue. They got rid of thousands of York jobs.
We couldn't continuously compete with Mars and Cadbury's. So, it was going to happen. Maybe gently. It would have been gently. But the Nestle takeover was no less gentle. It was almost inevitable. We all knew this. Sorry. Management knew this. The workers were very upset. They were very nervous, I think. They were nervous of what might happen. They were being taken over. And it could have happened. There was the wrong company taking us over. We had to fight others off. But we can't guarantee, obviously, but we firmly believe that if the first bidder came in for us, and that was a Swiss company, I think, wouldn't be factory here now. We're pretty confident of that. There wouldn't be a chocolate factory left in York. Compare it to Terry's. Gone. Completely gone. Completely gone. I mean, when you say chocolate orange now, I think it's made in Germany, or I don't know where it's made.
Poland.
Yeah.
That's where chocolate oranges went. They asked me and a few others to go and train them, you know, as we were winding things up here.
So, we fought those two off, which we didn't want, so a Nestle. And that was a completely different kettle of fish altogether. They were an honest, upright company to work with, and they were completely correct and very good people.
I said I would stay. My job had become redundant. My shift was the first to go. And I had about a week to decide if I was going to stay. And I sort of panicked and I said, yeah, I'll stay. And I came back a week after Christmas and I didn't really have a job to come back to. I couldn't go to work for 8 hours a day and do nothing. And people I trained up
telling me what to do, sweeping floors and stuff like that. So destroying for me. I actually went to them and I said, can I go? And they said, yeah, but if you leave, you'll go next week. The rest of them had 4 months to find another job. I had to go then.
I was on nights when we were told Terry's was closing. And we just went back to work. We all went back to work. Because people then took pride. You know what I mean? I were proud to make chocolate oranges. So, you know, you did your best. I'd probably say I haven't had a chocolate orange since I left. Not because I'm boycotting them, I just, to be honest, I didn't really eat them anyway.
In Terry's shop, it was very sad.
I had to make people redundant, and that's the worst thing I've ever had to do. But there's a change in the way of doing things. It had nothing to do with the individual. They were using more computers, so the actual role disappeared, they were made redundant, and there was nothing more for them to do there.
Everything became more competitive. When other places closed down, they came to York for jobs, and it was vicious. When Nestle took over, people were stabbing each other in the back for jobs. They were arguing for jobs. And yet they made it like rival business units, so you had to apply and compete. You had to pitch for work. Well, that idea of working together goes. That's what the Roundtree family believed in. There's no incentive to encourage each other, to help each other. You pitched against them.
Because I had technicians and carton designers working for me, and the designers, for example, they started using the computers for design, and so they could make rapid changes in no time. So, the job disappeared, they were made redundant, and there was nothing else for them to do. There has to be progress. We had to compete with the rest of the world. And that's one of the sad things. That's life.
Well, I think it's gone to Dorcas and magic, and they're not the same. They used to be beautiful, absolutely lovely. Not the same now, though. It's different recipes, they've all changed, they've gone all continental, that's why. You know, continental, like fondant things.
And I've heard it's not as good because we had a camaraderie. You know what I mean? Half of it, well, it's nearly all gone. Well, it has all gone practically. There's a little bit of the factory left, and it's polos and kit. And it's right at one end, right at the baths, the Roundtree baths. It's all been knocked down. And they're building houses on the land.
It'd be nice to go back in building, wouldn't it? But it's all down now, isn't it?
Well, that bit with all the windows is down now, isn't it? But there's still a big factory there.
I'm not that much in touch with Robin anymore. I still send him a letter occasionally. But he's got arthritis in his fingers, and he's looking after his brother as well, so he can't write back. I'll invite him to this. I don't know whether he'll come.
To be honest, not many people have kept in touch.
Well, people don't come in the pub anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't come in, do they? Like they used. But there's a reunion.
Now that when that first started, that was hard. And then it just got less and less.
Oh, well, we lost touch for a lot of years, didn't we? We just got on with our lives. But then we bumped into each other at the hospital. I was working and you were a patient, weren't you?
Yeah.
We just got talking, we exchanged numbers, and we've seen each other every week since.
Yeah.
There are loads of them I see who used to work there, but not on such close terms. Funny, we both met there. We both met at Ken.
Yeah. Both our husbands were called Ken.
We're both married to Ken. Both got divorced. Yeah, Roundtrees were brilliant. No problem at all. Lovely firm to work for.
Yeah, excellent.
I know it wasn't a social, but it was a job and you could have a laugh.
You could.
You could have a laugh.
Yeah, I used to enjoy going to work.
Yeah.
Looking about, just a laugh.
Best chocolate factory in York, I reckon.
Yeah.
Our wafer was definitely better.
It was. Now I was saying, though, you ask anyone now, and they go back tomorrow. And most people wanted to
Yeah,
leave.
they would, yeah.
But you ask them now, and they go back tomorrow. I go back.
They were the happiest years of my working life. There were a lot of memories about working there, you see. It meant a lot to a lot of people. And at the heart of it were the Cocoa Works magazines. They were the cement that held everyone together. It was a way of keeping in touch with everyone else at the factory. The chief shop steward at the factory said that no building can stand without human cement. Well, look what's happened since the new lot took over. They're pulling the old buildings down. He was right. He got a lot of fame by saying that. We have to keep these, you see. There's a lot of memories in these magazines. I was on a relatively low wage. But being on a low wage in a company like that didn't bother me. Because the lads who it did bother drinked, smoked, gambled, big cars, wanted to go on holiday twice a year. But I didn't want that. And because I didn't want that, a little money can take you a long way. My only vice was collecting antique things. Oh, that is lovely. I forgot to show you this. Well, this here has become famous since Sophie, who runs this place, has had it. It says John Bowes Morell and Oscar F. Roundtree on the front. He got killed, did Oscar, saving people in the capacity of the Red Cross. He was partly responsible for this tin. It was to commemorate all the people who gave their lives. It's quite an important tin. I've only ever seen two in my lifetime of collecting, this one and another one I've recently got. So when they come up as rare as that, they really are quite rare. So many memories. That's why it's important that all these items are kept and looked after. Well, that's why I've got my museum. You know, I go in that house now, and I can't believe all the stuff I've got. I've got another cabinet coming next week. I love all the beautiful artwork. Some of the Victorian stuff is out of this world. It's beautiful. They spared no expense creating all these marvellous things.
In Iceland, it would be really nice to get the real stories of people who work there as part of this play building. Yeah. So in June, we're going to be doing a play for a week in here. Yes. With audience members sitting at tables and hearing the stories of people who work there. So hopefully this is what we'll be using this for. So there'll be somebody, an actor, playing you, talking about it, and
that's a bit, what is this actually? Is it?
So what it is
it takes you right back. It just shows you how we live in those days. All the lovely flavours that we have in the sweets were taken out. That's what made cheap. When my father was at school, he was so poor in them days, he went in his bare feet. So for them to get a tin of chocolate like that was more than Christmas. It was a really good thing. So he treasured that in all those years. When I was 15, he gave me it. This is how all this law started. I worked there all my life now, helping to control waste products. But my job took me all around the place. I went everywhere. The thing you miss most about spending your life there are the people. You can't find them anymore. Now, there was a chap called Whittaker who wrote this book, and he thought anybody who collected anything like this was complete idiots. I wrote to him and I told him, I said, do you realise it's a multi-million thing in this country? And in the world it's a multi-billion pastime. He didn't know. He said, I wish I'd come to see you before I wrote my book. Everything's got a story, I'm afraid, yeah. I could be here for a long, long time telling you all.